Okay, so I'm just trying out this old camera that's a replacement, and I figured a fun way to do that would be to take a look at this issue of EGM. This is the oldest issue that I own, and its cover date is November 1999. And back in the day, EGM used to be my go-to thing for all video gaming news. I mean, I read it constantly. I took EGM with me everywhere. So anytime you see an old issue of EGM I have, it's probably going to be battered up like this, because I was literally I was working a summer job and stuff. I'd have it in the car while going between summer cleaning jobs and stuff. EGM and comic books, EGM comic books and Sherlock Holmes were like my go-to thing, and EGM was what I'd carry with me all the time. I'm not much of a Pokemon fan. Sorry, but yeah. Here's the thing: all my friends were into it, and my brother was into it. But out of all my friends and my brother, I was older than them by just 1 year, and it kept, I think, aging me out of some of these '90s fads. For instance, all my friends were into Power Rangers, and I didn't see the point in Power Rangers. All my friends were into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I didn't see the point in that. I think that just 1 year when you're in grade school or a young teenager can make a huge difference into what you're into. And that's what happened with Pokemon. It just seemed like a very basic RPG to me. And I hadn't played that many RPGs. In fact, Final Fantasy VIII was the first RPG I ever played to completion, but it just seemed like a very bare-bones RPG to me. But anyway, I wasted enough time talking. Let's flip it open. One of those old Crash Bandicoot ads for Crash Team Racing. That's the one PS1 Crash Bandicoot game I don't actually own, but I want to. I thought Rayman came out before '99, but this is definitely a Rayman ad. I'm not sure what it's for though, because yeah. Only for N64 Sports. Little letter from the editor thing here. Yeah, like they used to do. Again, this is like, yeah, and he's amazed that there are 4.2 million Americans playing Pokemon. Yeah, remember when 4.2 million people playing something was a massive deal. One of the 5,000, says it started 5,000 years ago, yeah, and this is one of the 5,000 Tomb Raider games that were released in the 90s. Huh. Oh, there's Squall from Final Fantasy VIII again. That and Final Fantasy IX are my two favorite Final Fantasy games, and Final Fantasy VIII is really the game that got me into Final Fantasy. And yeah, as you see, I probably explained it in my video, but I actually love the junction system. I think it adds a great amount of replayability. This is one of the games that I always saw as demo units. I always saw in demo units in the store, and I always meant to get, but never got around to getting. I should probably take a look into whether or not that is worth getting. The thing is that a lot of PlayStation action games, though, even if they were highly rated at the time, I find that their controls have killed them these days. So yeah, that's something to consider. Okay, so now we have the letters section, and yeah, let's see the sort of things people were talking about. Zelda is a Muslim? I recently played through Zelda for the second time and noticed something interesting in the fire dungeon. I recognize the chanting you hear every once in a while from somewhere. Me being a Muslim American, I realized that it's a prayer. Translated, it means God is greatest. Has anybody else noticed this? No one else seems to have noticed this, but the Zelda games are filled with imaginary imagery and ideas from the real world. Bernie Stoller was okay by me. Some may be cheering Bernie Stoller's recent separation from Sega of America. However, no one should forget that Bernie is largely responsible for the success of the Dreamcast in the US. The inclusion of the 56K modem, major retailers getting back on board with Sega, and most of the big developers and publishers supporting Dreamcast and AT&T as the preferred ISP were all things Bernie worked hard for. Sure, Bernie made some mistakes. Working designs comes to mind, but doesn't everyone? In this long time game player's humble opinion, Bernie did a pretty good job, and he will be missed. His heart certainly seems to be with the American gamer and Sega of America. Besides, wasn't it just too cool to call the CEO of a large COO of a large company by his first name and know that it was okay and expected? Thanks, Bernie. Yeah, that's the sort of commentary that you would find on EGM that I found that you wouldn't get in other magazines. The other magazines seem to aim just a little bit younger or a little more juvenile than EGM. And don't get me wrong, EGM would have its own juvenile thing, but you would also get these letters that would sometimes, in a very adult way, discuss industry trends. And that's one of the things that made EGM my go-to news source. Pokemon has an anti-self-abuse message. In the midst of all Pokemania that's going on, there's one fact that seems to have gone unobserved, namely the ridiculous length of Pikachu's arms. Look how short they are. He couldn't even put his hands together. Unless Pikachu isn't anatomically correct, his arms are too short to reach his genital. What? Is this an... What? Anti-masturbation message from Nintendo? Are they... What? And then you get stuff like this. Feel like it's from the depths of Twitter. Humans are physically unable. They raise above their animal instincts to a higher plane. Are you saying that only humans were physically unable to masturbate? They rise above their animal instincts and to a higher plane of existence, uncaring of base or material needs? Or is it possible that I'm reading too much into this? Pika Pika. You know, you're reading too much into this. Way too much into this. Yeah. Yeah, I think the Dreamcast can handle Quake. That's basically what somebody's asking. And I do remember it got... Ooh, yeah. Yeah, I love Final Fantasy VIII. Ask anyone, it's one of my favorite games of all time. So, yeah. Seeing this, yeah, this ad really brings back memories. Good night. The letter section really was long back then. Nowadays... Well, you know, the last EGMs that I got, you know, and the last video game magazines I got, you know, like 5, 6 years ago. I don't know when they stopped printing, but anyway, it was a long time ago. You know, now it's just a single page, but look, it's like 1, 2, I guess that's what the internet does to it. 3, 4, you know, it's just like Grand Theft Auto 2. Let's drive 6. Good night. Donkey Kong 64. A lot of ads. Oh, and even more letters. Good night. Here's somebody getting mad at them for scoring. You have to give Superman a little credit. At least he gives you the option to increase the difficulty as you go along instead of playing the whole game on easy, only having to start all over again on hard. Somebody's giving him a hard time for their review of Superman 64. I'm guessing they, like most people, gave the game a lower rating because mentioned in their review that if you start on easy, you have to go back and beat it on hard. So easy mode is pretty much pointless. They should just have one difficulty mode since you can't complete the game on easy. And this person is defending not only that, but say that they should give Super Rad 64. They should give Super Rad 64 a break. I'm sorry, I played that game. No, it doesn't deserve any breaks. Sorry. And I'm a huge Super Rad fan, but ooh, they're talking about the PlayStation 2. They're talking about the the PlayStation 2. This was probably the end of the Dreamcast, but yeah. Oh, they're showing it with a white memory card, even though it's a black, even though the system color is black. Did white memory cards exist? If they did, I never saw them. I only ever saw PlayStation 2 memory cards in black. I didn't even know what a DVD was when I was reading this originally back in '99. I wouldn't figure it out for like another year, and then yeah, this is how my family got our. But it was a smart move by Sony's part, because this is how my family got our first DVD player. My brother got a My brother was given a PS2 for his birthday. My family saved up and got my brother a PS2 for his birthday, and I remember it was right around the time they floated the first Doctor Who DVD, the 5 Doctors on DVD, to see if there was a market on DVD for Doctor Who. And I remember going up to Suncoast. To the mall and buying that for like $30. I had to pay and they all $30 for that first one. So yeah, it was the perfect time. And I remember going out when he got that. I went out and we all got a game. And when he got that, we went out that night and we each got a game. We went out to Walmart and each got a game. And I just picked up, just because I like the box, Rumble Racing. And to this day, that is my favorite racing game of all time. So lots of good memories with the PlayStation 2. I love all the speculation, that they have here, like about and they're talking about all the specs of the Game Boy Advance and comparing it to the Game Boy Color, and it's like 4 8-bit Z80 Worka, like at 8 megahertz, memory enabled 32-bit RISC CPU, core designed by ARM. Looks like they have about they have the exact same screen, except yeah, that it's a slightly higher resolution for the Game Boy Advance. That might be why it was so hard to see anything. Over 300,000 Dreamcast systems were pre-sold prior to the September 9th launch date. Interesting number, according to them. And it's like, there's all this stuff. It's like, good night. Nintendo's long-delayed N64DD sees the light of day in Japan. I forgot this thing was ever even released in Japan because it was such a failure. Like, it's been a long time in coming, but the N64DD is finally a reality in Japan. At least the current plan is that it will be released around December 1st, although an official launch date for the system in Japan hasn't been announced. Nintendo and recruits have set up a new company, BrandNet DD, which will handle the DD and its online service. Yeah, I don't know anybody who at this time expected the N64 DD to be anything short of a failure. I mean, we all knew a new system was coming we all knew a new system would be out within 2 years. So what was the point of buying an expensive expansion to your N64 at that time? old Dreamcast. Ah. Yeah, you see, here they're interviewing Shigeru Miyamoto about the specs of the Dolphin, which would become the GameCube. So we all knew it was coming, so it was a smart move not to release it in the States, because it would have gone down exactly like the Sega 32X. I don't even know why they bothered in Japan. Sure, involvement in Zelda Gaiden. I can't be involved as completely as I usually am. From time to time, I am involved at certain points of development, but I have restrained myself from making specifications for the game. Wonder what Zelda Gaiden. Oh yeah, that's I think that was that that's what everybody was speculating that that demo was that they showed that had a more realistic Legend of Zelda or something. I think from now on, even on Dolphin, there will be Nintendo games and sequels, and although I won't be deeply involved in their development, you are going to feel the Nintendo touch in many games. So in other words, while I won't be deeply involved in the process of developing a sequel, you'll feel the same way when playing those games as when I once worked on them. I think the biggest difference between being the producer and being the director is if you are director, you can check each phase of the game yourself in order to confirm that it's your game, so that you can feel what it's like to touch the game yourself. For example, F-Zero and Yoshi, when you look at these games, you realize that they make more of the touch of the directors. They have more of the touch of the directors. I'm kind of trying to oversee the overall process and then ask each of the directors to take care of the game so they can reflect on their own individual touch. While a game like Legend of Zelda, I want my own touch to be reflected sharply. Yeah. Yeah, so this is a long time ago, because this is when Miyamoto was moving from being a games director to being the producer for Nintendo. And still believe that cartridge is the best medium for software development. Yeah, that wouldn't stay. I have one national tidbit. Announcing a new game in September. Sonic Adventure International, basically the US version of Sonic Adventure, but with Japanese as its default setting. The second is for the Among-a, a music game where you play from Maraca. Yes. Sorry I have to keep cutting away, but this stupid shelf that's made with, like, you know, filler pegwood and not real wood keeps breaking away half the time when I try to turn the page. But this is really the only place I have to showcase this, so I have to use it. But once in a while when I turn the page, the thing just falls over. The thing just breaks and I have to fix it. Dragon Quest III will head to Game Boy next year, according to Enix producer. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. I'm sorry, I'm horrible with Japanese names. That's why you see me. That's why you're not going to see. Did they just predict what YouTube? Did they predict YouTube? A bunch of guys sitting around on in their boxers, commenting on things. Okay, this is Quarterman. This is the old gossip and speculation. This is all the rumors going around the industry at the time. They had a whole section devoted to rumors. Rumors. There are currently all kinds of stories circulating around the follow-up to Metal Gear Solid, with the most specific originating in the UK stories of the new game being set in Peru, are running rife along with details of its confirmed status as a PS2 title. Yeah, it would have been strange at this point if they announced it as a PlayStation title, although the PlayStation would the original PlayStation would consider truth. The accused spies have been sorry. It's all these spirals. It's making it hard to read. I love EGM, but sometimes they would get carried away and do things. A lot of video game magazines would do this and just do these things that were designed to gimmicks, and it's so stupid because it makes it hard to read, come out. And from what we've learned, it would seem that the next Metal Gear is a long way off. Don't expect to see it under the name Metal Gear Solid 2, though. Yeah. It almost certainly will have the Metal Gear prefix, but no final title is confirmed yet. Current estimates for the release put it sometime in 2001, maybe even later here, and indeed it is slated as a PlayStation 2 title. As far as story goes, it seems apparent that from probing that things will pick up a few years after Metal Gear Solid. Snake will be forced out of retirement to continue his pursuit of Ocelot, and this will lead to eventual discovery that the president is in on the whole conspiracy, as revealed at the very end of Metal Gear Solid. Expect a massive budgeted game with all the frills of major production. PlayStation 2 games are estimated to weigh in at a minimum development cost of $5 million. Expect the Metal Gear sequel to be budgeted at a considerably higher cost than that. Here's a rumor that turned out not to be true. The Command & Conquer series is drawing to a close, but the next installment will be designed with the PlayStation 2 in mind. It won't, however, be coming to any consoles. You got that right. Actually, I think it ended up on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, actually, so this is a long way. Unless, of course, no, I think at this point in '99 they'd be talking about Tiberian Sun, I think. I'm trying to remember when Tiberian Sun came out. Namco has canned all its Dreamcast development. The game didn't perform as well as hoped in Japan, although Namco is still more focused on its Japanese market than... Heard a rumor about the Tekken saga in the past. PlayStation 2 launch titles. Fate of Tekken Tag as a home game in the mythical Tekken 4. Yep, Tekken Tag would end up there. No, Final Fantasy IX would not make a move away from pre-rendered backdrops. The original PlayStation wouldn't support that. I think Final Fantasy IX is one of the best looking and best playing Final Fantasy games. It has this cartoony look that just keeps it from really... It keeps its graphics from really aging, which I think is a good thing for it. Then you have that. Here you have the top 20 best-selling games. Driver, Pokemon Pinball, Pokemon Blue. No wonder they have Pokemon here. Look at all this Pokemon. Driver, Pokemon Pinball, Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Red, Pokemon Snap, Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, Super Mario Bros. Star Wars, Episode 1 Racer, Tarzan, Rugrats Savage Hunt, Final Fantasy VII, Disney Tarzan, on the Game Boy. And people wonder... I talk to people who see the sales numbers of the N64 and see that it wasn't anywhere near a PlayStation, and some people, I've talked to people who don't understand how Nintendo stayed in business for that. Well, this is how. Look, yes, the best-selling title is a PlayStation, but look how many spots on the top 20 are Nintendo software. It was the software sales that kept Nintendo afloat, and boy, they were selling software. I mean, on the top 20, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So yeah, so just over half of the top 20 sales charts was Nintendo software, and half of that software was being published directly by Nintendo. So they got to keep most of the money. So that's... And this is before the internet. This was a godsend, having this sort of thing to let you know what games were coming up. So what you might need to save up for and such. Let's see what we had here. Yeah. Let's see. Color, October. Seeing it divided up into this and all this other stuff, and by Final Fantasy Anthology. It's like seeing this just divided up everywhere. It was just great by alphabetical order. But as you can see, the N60, yeah, as you can see, you know, look, it's like you see in November how they have it packed, how they, yeah, it's like, yeah, by this point, oh, Shu and Chan, and Pocket Morons. It's like, yeah, I love the old Shu and Chan, although they move it to the back of the book later on, and Chan has an enormous head in these early comics. And it's 2 pages, too. Later on, it would just be a little 1-page thing. But here you see it's 2 pages and it's in the middle of the magazine. That's nice to see. Anyway. Preview Soul Fighter. Not sure if that ever got released. If it did, I don't remember it. Evolution. Medal of Honor, the original Medal of Honor. Before shooters were given on consoles. Mega Boost. Toy Commander. I remember a friend had that on his Dreamcast. I like that pretty much. It pretty much blew my mind how big the environment was around your little toy. That was sort of a hard thing to pull off back then. Okay, Zombies Revenge. This is why, I mean, already in '99 I was starting to get sick of zombies. So by the time Walking Dead came around, they made them mega popular, and they keep getting more and more popular. I'm just sick of them. They are the most boring enemy in any game, and they're just, I'm just sick of them. Sorry. 4 million, the number of games sold worldwide from the Might and Magic universe. Even selling 4 million of your whole universe was a Shamu. Yeah, that's one that I wish I had. Yeah, but cut to the chase. Chase HQ, Secret Police, and then down here, because they're so related, Puzzle Master and Bubble Bubble. Because those are 2 things are related. Runabout series 2 on the Dreamcast. And boy does it look delectable. It looks like a pre-rendered on the PlayStation. Yeah, back when this looked really good. Nowadays, if you had this, people would complain. Colonel Arcadia? Ever heard of that? But yeah. And this is how they used to have Electronics Boutique. Yeah, back in the day, there wasn't just GameStop. You had Electronics Boutique and GameStop, and they were, I remember around this time, they were ruthlessly undercutting each other. I mean, I remember I was able to get in the box Super Nintendo system for I think like $15. So yeah, back then they were ruthlessly undercutting each other, and so you actually had competition, and that was good. That's what I don't like about today, is there's no competition. With GameStop, there's no competition. You got good service and good prices because there was competition. Once they merged and basically created a monopoly for game stores, that's when they both started going downhill. And yeah, Electronics Boutique I always liked a little better than GameStop anyway. They always seem to have a bigger selection of classic games and better trained people there. Ugh. Yeah, yeah, this controller, good job for them cutting off the wings things, because that makes the N64 so much more handleable. But it was so light and felt like there was nothing in it, and this D-pad was so imprecise, and this thing was just made of nothing but slippery plastic. I used that at a friend's house, and it was horrible. That was one of the most... And despite the design making it look better than the typical N64 than the standard N64 controller, it was one of the worst things I had ever used to control a game. All this Sega Dreamcast stuff. I mean, roommate number 103. I think this became known as Mr. Mosquito. Or something. What is this? Sega's latest virtual pet simulator has you playing the role burgeoning slate inhabiting a young man's room. You can manipulate certain objects in the room to move around and rearrange. Take the warrior, or maybe this wasn't released at all over here, because it kind of looks like Mr. Mosquito, but the game it describes is kind of different. Legend of Zelda Gaiden. Oh, I think Gaiden was what Majora's Mask ended up. I think Gaiden was what Majora's Mask was developed under. And high res, nope. Even though Zelda Gaiden will require the expansion pack to play, don't expect fancy pants high res visuals like those found so many other N64 games today. Rather than simply increase the screen resolution, Nintendo instead opted to use the pack to improve gameplay by allowing for richer textures, more objects on screen simultaneously, and greater viewing distance among other things. Kudos to Big N for keeping it real and making sure gameplay comes first. If only more companies would take note, there might not be so many subpar N64 games out there. Arena of Time has sold worldwide as of August 27 again. And it's been dropped down to $40. Remember when Nintendo didn't have everything jacked up on a virtual store? Super Mario RPG 2, which ended up being called Paper Mario because they had split with Square. The good. At first glance, the art style seems to get in the way of gameplay, but it actually makes it more fun to play. The bad. Square helped develop the first Mario RPG and isn't working on this one. And the ugly. Mario must have jumped into a wallpaper press to get this spin. Wonder what exercise plan he's been on to keep his figure. Well, they didn't need to worry. The RPG games would be fine. Road Rash 64. So now we see Road Rash finally getting a Nintendo 64 release. And I think everybody had stopped caring by now, because I think the first one had come out in like 93 or something. And this Xeno Warrior Princess it is. Yeah, wonder how that went. Probably not so well. It's a licensed game on the N64, Kirby Dream Land 64. I can't remember if that ever came. Tiny Tank. This is one of my favorite PlayStation games of all time. He's got machine gun and the turbine. I mean, it mixes great gameplay with great humor. It's probably, it may be one of the best action games on the PlayStation, and one of the few games that's ever made me actually laugh. So yeah, if you find a copy of Tiny Tank, play it. Excitebike 64, Paperboy 64. Oh, Daikatana. Yeah. Oh, what a disaster. Maybe seems to be the age of artists leaving big companies only to start their own companies, get too ambitious on their first project, and crash and burn. Because you remember the same thing that happened to Ion Storm with Daikatana, with them getting too ambitious, with them having a developer of attitude that got too ambitious, didn't deliver the project on time, and ended up pretty much bankrupting the company. That pretty much happened in comics. That pretty much happened with comics in the 90s too. So yeah, the 90s seemed to be the age of that. So yeah, all of this stuff, and it's like nowadays they would have cut down, later on they would have cut down all the other coverage to get to their cover story when it was this big, but no, here they just did an extra big issue. And it's like, all this just to get the puzzle story, and that's like mini racers. Yeah, here it is. A lot of stuff that didn't come out. Mother Free, yeah. I'm so mad that didn't come out. Custom Robo eventually came out as a GameCube game. Wish they could have done the same with Mother 3. The original 8-bit Mother on the NES decided against it due to poor sales of Dragon Warrior in the US. got a second chance, though, as a fan-translated version called Earthbound Zero for play on NES emulators. You can find out more information on Earthbound Zero by visiting earthbound.net. Nowadays, a magazine would never dare publish the address of bootleg, even if the game was out of print, because can you imagine what Nintendo would do to you now? They won't even let you show footage of their games on YouTube. Resident Evil 3, Nemesis, yeah, as I said, really got into this whole zombie thing. Tomb Raider, The Last Revelation. Again, the problem with these games is that, I think the problem with a lot of PlayStation games, the action games, was that the controls, they had to be designed for you to just use the D-pad, and that made for some very stiff action games. Basically, they designed the games around the fact that they couldn't count on the player having the dual analog controller, and so in a 3D space that meant that they had to design it around the D-pad, so the game had to be designed to take into account being clunky and stuff, so it was very hard to make an action game that would age well in that. I think this is all ad, though. But they made the ad, that was sneaky of them, they made the ad look like it could be coverage in the magazine. Ugh! I remember dreading this all the time, especially since if your relatives found out you had a PlayStation, chances are they would get you an Army Men game for your birthday or Christmas, and they were all garbage. They controlled like garbage. They were like really short levels. There was nothing original. I mean, you would fit, and most of them did not have this. What this one shows is you fighting around the house, which you would think would make for an interesting setting for the game, but most of them would just have you in nondescript desert or snow areas, so there'd be no noticeable difference between this and your standard action game, except you were this stiff little army man, and they were garbage, and they were turned out like it felt like every time you turned around there was a new one in stores, and it's like complete garbage. Grand Theft Auto 2, Satyrs of Might and Magic, Prince of Persia 3D. Yeah, this is them looking at. Yeah, I remember Prince of Persia 3D coming out on the PC, but I don't think it ever made it to the PlayStation or any of the consoles around this time. Boombox, Ballistic. Yeah, as you can see, this is when. Yeah, NASCAR Rumble. Yeah, this was the first game from this team, and then they would go on to do my favorite racing game of all time, Rumble Racing, which didn't have the NASCAR, which was free from a lot of stuff because it wasn't confined to being NASCAR, and it's just the most fun I've ever had playing a racing game and unlocking stuff, and it just has. To me, it's just the perfect racing game. Fighting Force 2. Legend of Zelda, Fruit of a Mysterious Tree. I forget what this came out. I forget what title this came out under. But yeah, good. The new Zelda game for the Game Boy Color. Yes, graphics aren't improved much from Zelda DX. Well, of course not. Most of the Game Boy. There was some extra processing power on the Game Boy Color, but it mostly went for the color graphics. Poor Link's got to climb into that kangaroo sack. Yeah, those things are slimy. Oh, was this released as 4 Seasons, or whatever, Oracle Seasons, or whatever they called it? Dungeon Warrior Monsters, Terry Wonderland, lots of Game Boy Color games too. Guess they were all. Oh, and this is when they still had previews of arcade games. I forgot the arcade was still a thing in '99. Yeah, and yeah, so you still had previews of arcade games. Somebody subscribe or something, because here it is, Dead or Alive 2. Oh wait, nope. More stuff. And good night, just look at all this Pokemon merchandise. I mean, good night, just look at it. It's insane. And so many ads. I mean, just look at this. Pokemon books. Which you had the game, which was turned into an anime, which was then turned into a manga, which was then turned into children's books. It's like, good night. And the game didn't start out with that good a plot anyway, so it's like, good night. Yeah, and it keeps getting derivative, and yep. Here's a list of, are they really going to do it? Yeah, they really do it. They list and describe, I think, every episode of a cartoon that had aired on TV, American TV up to that point. Which Pokemon had only been around for about a year at this point, I think, so it was like, what? And they did. Well, it gets me when cartoons just try to flood you with like 52 episodes in 1 year. Nowadays, I'm like, oh, come on. Tomorrow Never Dies. That was my favorite of Pierce Brosnan's Bond movies. I know a lot of people say that GoldenEye is, but no, I think Tomorrow Never Dies. It actually goes up with, has a leg up on it in both terms of plot, memorable villain, and stunt scenes. And it's all about a media mogul trying to rig global politics so that the media, and by controlling what information is out there and who could speak and all this other stuff, so that he could control everything through his media empire. Haven't seen anything like that going on in the real world recently. Pokemon Silver and Gold. So, how many games had they released in this 1 year? Because I thought, did that come out? Good night. Oh, that doesn't look like anything Nintendo would later release. That thing. The card game, good night, yeah. I don't even know how much money people spent on the card game, but that was I actually have that. I actually have the N64 version of this. Oh, look, how to find the fakes. I'm not sure why you care, but here's how you find the fakes. The dark side of Pikachu. There are people who don't like Pokemon, and then there are people who really don't like Pokemon. Sometimes they even make headlines. Mark Cuban, a child. Yeah, okay, this is about when there was a scare about, and there was a ban on Pokemon stuff. Yeah. Put a warning signs to avoid counterfeit Pokemon. Sloppy, blurry text. No official Nintendo or Pokemon logo. Poor quality. Well, that's a... Here's the thing, though. Like the bootleggers would quickly figure out, just copy that. I've never understood why that is supposed to stop frauds. The official logos on something. Can't the bootleggers who are copying the product just do a photocopy of the logo? Pokemon stands for. Yeah. Good night. Look at this. This is just. This tells you how much it had taken over at that point. This is old Final Fantasy versus new Final Fantasy. They both seem to have had the same review scores. They say the winner is Fantasy Anthology, but this is just like, and they didn't cut out this sort of thing, trying to send through RF some sort of wireless signal for an RF connector, and it's like, why? How is this device here any easier than just plugging the cable into your TV? How is this whole giant box here, giant box there? They're somehow supposed to send a wireless signal that will contain your game's audio and video, and a low quality RF signal, hence the drop in visual clarity. RF Max compared to regular AV cables is very noticeable. No one wants blurry looking games, especially on Dreamcast. It's a good idea, but it's just not quite there yet. And besides, it's just bigger and bulkier than just having the cable. Good night. I remember, they used to review accessories. I think they were the only one who I can remember. Good night. Yeah, this one you used to get a write-up. And it's like Dynamite Cop. Okay, I've never heard of that game before, but it only gets a 3.5 from one of the reviewers, and a 4.5 from another. But it doesn't look that good. But I almost have to track down and play that now just because of the name. Oh, that's got to be the dumbest idea for a controller. Can you imagine how annoying this would be to hold this stupid boomerang? Oh, and look, one of those 800 that charges you per minute for game. They said you enter to win a sweepstakes. How much you want to bet that they're like, please hold. Our call is very important to us. Please hold. Yeah, one of those 900 numbers before the government cracked down on them. I think the government cracked down on them in the early 2000s, so we didn't get any more of this garbage. But yeah. You can see the number of Nintendo 64 games starting to go down from where it was before. Yeah. Game of the month was Final Fantasy Anthology. Good. They actually gave this fairly decent scores. I played this game. It is pretty much unplayable. We were so used to action games on the PlayStation being unplayable that the episode 1 game got decent review, average review scores. But you can just see the PlayStation had a lot more content out. And here's where they go over to reader reviews. Yeah, this is what we had before most of us were on the internet. But I was on the internet, and so were most people, but I don't know. But this is like reader reviews. How we rate it? Yeah, this is like... Yeah, so this was an interesting thing. Dex Drive sites of a month. Yeah, that was a device I always wanted. 1900 preview. And they even have a 900 number. I'm so glad that those figs got, because parents would get into so much trouble with their kids calling those things. I'm not normally in favor of the censorship, but it was a good idea for the government, because kids could just call and get their parents would be charged, because it would charge the phone bill. You didn't even need to give them a credit card on some of these things. You just charge it to your phone bill. Oh, and look at this. Oh, this isn't even as good as my family got our first PC like 3 years before this, and this is the same brand, and it looks like my family's first PC, but I don't think it's nearly as good. Let me see. Oh no, it's better. It's better. Okay. But yeah, here's what they have. Here's the computer that you could get in this ultimate gaming rig. And this was something that I wanted to win, but I wasn't about to pay money to enter. But they used to advertise it in EGM all the time. In fact, all the video game magazines. It was like, but look at the specs on this. Yeah, there's the Packard Bell, and it's like blazing fast computer with 500 megahertz, MMX Pentium 2 processor, 128 megs of RAM, 14 gig hard drive, DVD, Windows 98 modem, and more. So that would have been a very respectable system. And it looks like they couldn't get a hold of a Dreamcast. They hadn't been able to buy a Dreamcast in time to do the photo shoot for this thing. Because look, you have the Dreamcast just inserted up there. That tells you how new the Dreamcast was. But yeah, and here's their spin-off magazine EGM 2. It kept changing names. At this point, it was Expert Gamer, but I think it would finally settle on Game Pro. It started out as EGM 2. Basically, the cheat section became so thick, they decided to spin it off into its own magazine rather than take up. And this is how you got used games. But yeah, hope you found that interesting. That's what a That's how we used to get our gaming news back in the day. That was EGM number 124. All right. See you next time.